Hello everyone and welcome back to my dream world. Sorry this video is up so late. I had a really crazy week at work with late nights and I was not able to watch the show live this week due to my commitment to my job. But I still voted. I voted for my faves. And I'm actually glad that I was able to wait a little bit to actually sit down and watch the episode all the way through because it has me even more hyped for next week, which is the 20th anniversary episode. And I think that's going to have a lot of fun in store for us, it seems. So for those of you who don't know me, hi, I'm Karina. I do a lot of show and movie coverage on my channel. It's mostly just for fun. I work in the entertainment industry. I am not a ballroom dancer, but I do love watching dance, so I thought it would be fun for me to cover this show since I've been watching it for the past few seasons. But without further ado, I'm gonna hop right in to this video because I've already taken too long to talk about this week. So opening up the show this week was Dylan. Honestly, I think Dylan's dance was pretty solid this week. It was clean. I didn't see any very visibly obvious mistakes as an untrained dancer, and he seemed to be having fun with the piece. I also liked that I like it when a contestant like Dylan does the jive because it kind of forces them to really move. I've been critical of a lot of Dylan's prior dances because I've been I feel like he's not doing the content. It's mostly Daniela who's doing the dynamic content during the dance and not him. So I've been kind of critical about that, but in the jive, he wouldn't have been able to do this so much. So I was like, okay, let's see what you can really do, Dylan. And I thought it was solid. At this point, the competition is very steep. And we have some very strong dancers on this season, so he just, to me, does look a little bit weaker in comparison. But even though he is doing well and he's definitely improved, it's just kind of hard because I feel like we have had more entertaining and memorable jives so far this season. So this one I was like, okay, yeah, that was really good. And nothing else. So it's hard for me because I am hey, that was a really good dance. But at this point, it's being held to a higher standard because unfortunately I do think he is on the weaker end. I mean, you've got Alex and Whitney who are powerhouses. You've got Jordan. I would actually put her up there on that level too. And then you've got Robert, who in my opinion is, has had more memorable dances than Dylan has. So the only person he's really beating is Andy, because Elaine is also a gorgeous dancer. It's just so stacked. So it's hard for me to talk about Dylan because I'm I think he's doing a good job, but it's not at the level as a lot of other people are at this point, and we are heading into quarterfinals and semifinals, so it's just the 10 from Flav was crazy. I will get more into Flav throughout this episode, but considering that Carrie Ann was kind of running over to help him with the score pad, because I think they score it on an iPad or something, it seems like he may have just been confused about how to use the scoring system and then accidentally locked in a 10 on accident. I don't usually score myself because how can I when I lack the knowledge about dance and ballroom in general, but I did feel like the 9s were kind of generous. I actually agreed with Carrie Ann's critiques. Thing about Carrie Ann, and I'll talk about her later too, but it's annoying when she's giving actual critiques and then just gets booed. It's not like she was saying it was bad. It's she was trying to say you missed a few flicks here, so I am going to dock a point for that. I think that's fair. You have to tell people, if you're not going to give them a 10, you have to tell them why you're not. So I'm when she's giving actual critique, why are we booing? It's just weird. Anyway, this was overall a solid dance, but not a standout to me for this week. Next we had Alex, and I have to say Alex has really stepped it up dancing wise in the past few weeks. She came in with experience, so I expected her to be good, but she's really been impressing lately. I think she's done really well with Val being tough on her because again, she has that experience. The girl danced all through high school. We can push her more than the average contestant, and I think it's paying off because she's at the top of the leaderboard. Even after losing the marathon, she was still at the top. And she probably would have been this week too had Flav not messed up the scores. We'll get into that in a second. And Val is really good with paso dobles, so unsurprisingly, this one was really, really good. I think that she could have taken it even a step farther when it comes to the fierceness of the piece. And I listened, for those of you who don't know, I listened to Sharna's podcast, who was a former pro, and she kind of explained that there could have been like even some more strength in some of her movement in a few places, and that there were these really tiny technical things, but it was still really, really good. I think she deserved those 10s. I think it would have been a pretty worthy first perfect score, and we can pretend like it was a perfect score because Flav meant to give her a 10. He talked about this online afterwards, that like he meant to give Alex a 10 but accidentally locked in a 9, and it was like too late to change. Personally, for Alex, I do prefer her in ballroom, so this isn't like a personal favorite of mine from her, but I do really love a good paso doble. It's actually one of my favorite styles when it's done correctly, and this one definitely hit. I think out of the pasos, hers was objectively the strongest. Well, I don't want to say like technically, because I listened to other people talk and they talked about the other two pasos too, but I would say it was the all-around best from my perspective this week. And next up we have Andy. Oh, sweet, sweet Andy. I really do love this man, but dancing-wise, come on, y'all. I gotta be frank, the 7s are actually generous, let alone the 9. That was a little, like, oh my, to me. I did think it was very sweet that he was so touched by the fans who love him. Like, I think that's really genuine and sweet, and I've become a bigger fan of his and stuff, but like, I don't have a problem with Andy. I just can't help but think if he was a woman, he would not have gotten the support that he's getting right now. Because the way that so many women on the show are being torn apart for the stupidest things, and it's like, oh, but Andy's trying. I'm like, ugh. But truly, I mean this. If the fans want him to stay, then let him stay. It's just that some people who are on social media, on TikTok, like, freak me out because I feel like they're infantilizing him to a level where I'm like, whoa, like, you guys do not know this man. You need to calm down. And it also doesn't help that the judges are basically giving him no feedback. Like, they're giving him 7s and he's still at the bottom of the leaderboard, but they're like, oh, you're just such a joy to watch, 7. And it's like, okay, but if he's not good, where are the critiques? It doesn't make any sense to me. So I'm more frustrated with the way he's being scored than the fact that people are voting for him, if that makes sense. The dance itself, it was sweet. I'm impressed that he even attempted a lift and ended up executing it, but the content is just not there for me when it comes to dancing. And yes, he moved more than average, which is, you know, pretty low bar. He just feels so stompy when he dances. Like, I'm really happy to see him enjoying his journey, but I'm at the point where I'm like, if he's knocking out my faves and really strong dancers, I'm going to get upset. And I usually try to be like, Karina, it's a dancing show, calm down. Like, it's not that serious. It's a popularity contest at the end of the day. But it is going to aggravate me if we're going to let some really talented people go for this. And I don't usually like to compare contestants directly because I think everyone's journey is different. People start with different levels of experience, but people who are saying that he should stay over Whitney, I have to strongly disagree, and I will get into that in a second because Whitney is the person that went next. Random, I really liked Whitney in that purple, like, dance gear. That, like, kind of deep shade of royal purple. Like, I really like that look on her. That's totally random. I just thought she looked good. But once again, Whitney haters, you are entitled to dislike and refuse to vote for this woman all you want. In fact, I am in a similar boat as most of you because I personally have not connected with her. I haven't seen Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, but I just don't care for this woman in any way. But dancing-wise, come on, y'all. She's really good. And I don't think she deserves to go home over Andy. And this Paso Doble, like, confirmed that for me. Like, for those of you who are voting for Andy in an effort to get her out, you're really just screwing over people who may have lower scores and less votes. I'm talking about people like Dylan, Elaine, who's one of my favorites. Like, I can't gauge, like, I cannot gauge how many votes Elaine is getting. So what scares me is if you're trying to knock out Whitney by voting for Andy, you actually might be screwing over somebody like Dylan or Elaine. And that sucks, and that's something I don't want to see happen. But on to the dance. I personally enjoyed Alex's just a touch better. I actually loved all three Paso Dobles this week because I didn't like the song for this one. I just didn't, I felt like the song didn't fit the dance. Like, obviously it worked for the style, but it was just kind of like irritating for me to watch as a result. I did feel like her Paso Doble, like, form was really good, though. Like, I was like, yes, that was a Paso, and I enjoyed it. And Charna pointed out on her podcast that technically she thought Whitney's was the best out of the Pasos, or at least that she, like, really fully embodied that Paso technique. And overall, like, and I can totally see that. There were a few stumbles, though. Like, people, Charna and Carrie Ann both acknowledged that she stumbled a few times, so obviously I'm not mad that she didn't get 10s. But come on, y'all. She's really, really good. That was a good Paso Doble. Next we have Danielle Fishel, and I've absolutely adored Danielle's journey on this show, on the season, and I love her social media content. I love her podcast. I love that she completely dedicated herself to the entire process this season. Apologies if you hear the sirens in the background. I can't really do anything about that right now, but, you know, when people say this is who the show is all about, Danielle is exactly who I think of. No dance experience, but so excited to be on the show and learn and improve every week. And after watching her dance and hearing people say that they hated the choreography, because remember, I watched it late, so I didn't, like, I saw the live comments and people going like, ooh, this was bad. And I was like, oh no, was it really that bad? But when I watched it, I was like, I don't hate it. I don't think it was bad. But then I kind of remembered what she said in her podcast. I think she said it like in 2 different episodes at this point, about how she wanted this dance to be dedicated to women and their struggles, not just in the entertainment industry, but like being a woman altogether. And unfortunately, I did not feel that at all. And a lot of people were saying like the choreography sucked, but like Pasha's strength is not contemporary, and I don't think it was the choreography was bad. I think it was that the choreography didn't tell the story that it was attempting to tell. So it made it pretty clear that, unfortunately, Pasha's strength in contemporary is not at the level as it is at ballroom, let's say. And it showed. It did show. I'm going to be honest. Even though I love Danielle, I was kind of like, yeah, I didn't get anything of what she was trying to convey with this dance, which is really sad because I know this week was super tough for her and that she really wanted this dance to be special, and I was just kind of like, oh, it just kind of missed the mark for me. I have been pretty vocal about not loving dances that have so many tricks and lifts, and this had a lot of lifts that I feel like could have been replaced with more storytelling elements rather than just, wow, like impressive lift. So if people are saying the choreography is bad because of stuff like that, then I do have to agree to an extent. And unfortunately, I was not surprised to see her eliminated this night. Because, like, as I was following the live threads, I was like, oh, she didn't nail it? Yeah, she's going home. Shoot. But, yeah, I was sad that she got eliminated because I do love her and I've adored her journey. But, you know, she did go out on a high note, and she even said on her podcast that she did feel like she went out in like the best way she could have. So I'm happy for that. We'll get into that in a minute, but for now, let's move on. Next who performed was Elaine, and I am so happy that Elaine is back and dancing in the ballroom. She's one of my favorites this season, so I would have been very, very sad if she had to withdraw from the competition, considering that she had less rehearsal time due to an injury. She absolutely crushed it tonight. I saw a lot of people on TikTok saying like her dance was too simple, like she barely did any content. But from what I understand, like I saw Ezra and Jordan's video recently where they were talking about each style. He said that the Viennese waltz has about like 9 different steps. So that's already like a very technical dance that is focused on like clean particular movements rather than like a bunch of different types of stuff. And personally, like again, correct me if I'm wrong. If you're a ballroom dancer, correct me if I'm wrong. I am all open to that. And I love to hear people who actually know things about like dance and ballroom technique to tell me about that. But personally, I would prefer a simple but technically gorgeous and like well executed dance than a hard dance with really like unique choreography that has glaring mistakes in it. And again, I'm not saying that Elaine was perfect because I can't judge on that, but I honestly found myself tearing up while she was dancing once again. I've cried during 2 of Elaine's dances at this point because she just looked so gorgeous and amazing and executed a beautiful dance in such a stunning way after a ribcage injury, which I know just sounds horrific to recover from. Like just being in pain in that area while you're dancing sounds horrific to me. So maybe not one of like the objective best dances of the night from like a technical or difficulty standard. Y'all can correct me on that, but it was one of my personal favorites, and Elaine is one of my 2 favorite contestants this season, so I'm just happy to see her knock it out of the park. Okay, next we have my other favorite of the season, Jordan, who absolutely crushed it this week. Again, people were saying that she did too many tricks. Yes, she did do a lot of tricks, and I've been critical of dances that had too many tricks, but she also had a lot of jazz content. And for those saying that she didn't, I've actually taken some jazz. This is the one style I actually know a little bit about because I took a beginner's jazz class last year. Whoop-de-doo. But I've taken jazz class, basically. I've been around jazz, and I'm not an expert in any way, but I do know that a lot of jazz is about isolations and following through with your movement, not just like, you know, finishing the move, but going like reaching out and beyond your movement. And I think she did that super fantastically. I'm not gonna crash out about her not getting a perfect score, but like while I mentioned this with Andy too, I really wish that Derek and Bruno gave her actual critique if they were going to hold off from the 10s. Because, you know, we saw a bunch of people, like, going, like, what? Like, Jan and Riley in the background were like, how did this not get a perfect score? And, like, it's just annoying to me when it's like, yeah, you did a good job, but, 9. It's like, okay, then what can I do to push that to a 10? You need to tell me if you want me to get to a 10. So it just feels kind of, like, sus from my view, because I'm like, Derek, do you have something against Jordan? I don't know what it is, but, like, he's held off from giving her a 10 once because of emotional issues, and then this, or like he said he didn't feel like she had enough emotion or whatever, which I can get into that later, but I'm not going to for the sake of this video. But yeah, like, give my girl some actual critique because she deserves to go to the finale. I need a freestyle from her and Ezra, and I'm gonna be upset if we don't get that. Like, again, I try not to get too invested in this stuff because at the end of the day, I don't know these people and it's just for fun, but I will be upset if my girl doesn't get to the finale, point blank, period. And closing the individual dances, because we still have teams, we had Robert, and I was excited to see Robert do a paso because I think he does well with like sharper movements where he can be in hold with Whitney. And I love that she told him, like, stop giggling like a golden retriever and match Mark and Val energy because that's what you need to do to have a good paso. I need Whitney Carson, not Whitney Levitt, to be in coach mode because she cannot fumble Robert. He is soaring in terms of views and thus likely, I mean, we already knew this, but in votes as well. But keep in mind, Alex also has a big fan base and high scores. Like, they are not far apart in scores, so it's gonna come down to the votes, and he can't afford to let things slip because of that. And with Alex dancing really, really well, Robert needs to start sticking out the most. And I think that it worked well for him this week because I loved this dance. This is actually, I think, my favorite of his so far. He did so much content, had great energy overall, just executed it really well. And I loved his movement quality throughout the entirety of the dance. Now, I am not going to be biased. He did mess up at the beginning of the dance when it came to timing with the other pros, and it was pretty obvious. Like, some people were like, oh, I didn't see it. Honey, it was there. It was there. Like, take off your rose-tinted glasses. It was there. But other than that, I thought he did a really good job, and I wouldn't have been mad if it weren't for that mistake, I wouldn't have been mad if he got, like, all 10s. Whitney, I need you to keep up this momentum, because when it comes to the next few weeks, if Elaine and Jordan don't win, I do want it to be Robert, and I want it to be deserved, because otherwise he's going to be another man that won just because he's a man and beat out a woman who is stronger. And I expect Alex to be better than him, objectively, because she has experience. But if he beats her, I want it to be because he actually danced really well, not just because everybody loves Robert Irwin. All right, then we come to the teams. I'm not really going to discuss them individually because they are kind of meshed when it comes to, like, the whole team selection and everything. But I'm going to be real. I knew Team Chicago was going to be better, at least on a technical standpoint. I'm sorry, y'all. I didn't root for either team over another because my two favorites, Jordan and Elaine, and my two other favorites, Robert and Danielle, were on opposing teams. So truly, I was like, I'm not rooting for a team. I'm not getting invested in that. But people were hating on Team Chicago before they even danced. Let's be for real, though, y'all. Andy, unfortunately, did weigh down Team Cool's ability to go all out. Or should I say Team Blonde? I think everybody on that team except maybe Val, and maybe... who else? Because, like, Emma and Whitney are also blonde. Who am I forgetting? Oh, my gosh. Oh, Alan. Val and Alan. They aren't blonde. Pretty much everybody else is blonde, so I'm gonna call them Team Blonde. Yeah, I didn't feel a personal connection to either team, though. Like, it wasn't a 10 for me, and, I don't know, like, I can't give it a 10 when I'm not wowed, and I was just kind of like, okay, that was a good team dance, oh, that was cute, but there were mistakes, okay, cool. So, Team Chicago being the first perfect score of the season was a little, like, underwhelming or whatever for me, because I do feel like I enjoyed the individual dances better. Like I said, I loved all the passos, I loved Elaine's Viennese waltz, I loved Jordan's jazz. Like, those are the dances I'm thinking of, not the group dances. But, you know, sometimes people, I guess maybe a lot of it also comes down to group dances being harder because you're collaborating with so many people. So I get it. Frankly, I do think they were both a little overscored, but I'm happy that Danielle got to leave on a happy note with a perfect score, her team getting their 10s, and I do think she picked the better team. Let's be real, y'all. I would have picked Mark Ballas first, too, because the only two viable picks to be first, in my opinion, like, I'd be like, okay, it's between Whitney and Alex, and I'll at least get one of them on my team. I would have picked Whitney, simply because Mark's freestyle choreography is T. Like, Val is an excellent choreographer, but I tend to like Mark's, like, freestyle choreography more than Val's. So I would have picked Mark and Whitney, or I would have picked Whitney, and by extension, Mark as well. I also thought it was super cute that she said on her podcast that Dylan was, like, brainstorming with her, okay, here's what we're gonna do. If it comes down to you picking, like, here's what we are going to do to get you the best team possible. And I think it paid off. Unfortunately, she did end up going home that night, but I think she got to leave on a happy note, so I'm at least glad that that was the case for her. But overall, we now we're at the end of the week, so scoring, I'll just go over this. Scoring was a hot mess, y'all. It was bad. The judges aren't holding the contestants to the same level, and that's calling people to either get undeservingly penalized or inflated score-wise, which is not great in this competition, in my opinion, especially this late. Like, guys, we're going into the quarterfinals. We are at the end. It's quarterfinals, semifinals, finale. We have 3 more weeks. So I'm like, come on, y'all. We need to stop giving people leeway when there are people that are clearly superior technically. That's what the fan votes are for. But shockingly, Carrie Ann was the most consistent judge this week. I do sometimes think that Carrie Ann, I'm not a fan of her personally, but I do think sometimes she gets too much hate, because Derek and Bruno have also had some questionable choices when it comes to the judging this season, and people just seem to take it all out on Carrie Ann. She did speak about, like, the hate and stuff on the Dancing with the Stars podcast with Joey. I'm kind of glad she talked about it, because it is, like, everybody has their ups and downs of being a judge. The only judge that was consistent all the way through was Len. Rip. And also, he's getting a tribute dance next week, which is going to make me cry, but we'll get into it. Then there's, of course, the guest judges. Flav, obviously, out of all the guest judges we've had this season, was the worst. Let's just be real. His scoring was pretty wild, you know what I'm saying? I won't talk about him outside of the show, but how are we giving Andy a 9 and Dylan a 10? You know what I'm saying? I will say, though, he intended to give Alex a 10, but was confused on how locking his scores worked. So he accidentally locked it as a 9. Honestly, like, he did look actually confused about how the scoring worked throughout the entire episode, so I do believe him on this count. But needless to say, for the people who are comparing him to Gene Simmons, he was not nearly as bad, to be honest. He wasn't harassing the women throughout the night and just making random lower scores to the women of color. Like, he wasn't doing that, so he was not nearly as bad as Gene Simmons, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? Okay, I'll stop saying that. That's getting annoying. It's annoying me. I don't know why I keep doing that. But Jordan and Elaine ate tonight. And that's pretty much all I care about at this point, because they're my faves, and I just really, really want them to go as far as possible. I'm going to be disappointed if they don't make it to the semifinals. Alex was also really good. I think she deserved those 10s and was, you know, I would say the overall strongest of the Passos. Like, Whitney might have been a little better technically, and Robert might have had, like, the most pleasant surprise of the night, in my opinion, because I was like, period, Robert, that's the energy I needed from you. But I would say when it comes to, like, an overall dance, that Alex's was the best of, or the one I liked the most, I guess. But personally, for me, like, Team Chicago was better. I knew they would score better. I do feel like people who are defending Team Cool are valid because it's a cute dance, but, like, let's just be for real, you guys. It's about technique when it comes to the judging side. That's what the voting's for. Your personal opinion is for the voting, not for the judging. I don't care for either of the team dance. I'm probably going to forget about them soon, but, you know, I'm happy Team Chicago got their 10s. Sad for Danielle. I think that she should have had another week. I would have liked to see her in the semifinals, but I just can't be fully surprised that, you know, she got eliminated this week because it wasn't her best, and, you know, Andy has a lot of fans. So overall, I enjoyed the dances this week, which is good, because we're now, like, we're literally almost in endgame. We're in the later half of the season, so I want to start seeing some really good progress in dancing, and I feel like overall we did get that this week. I am freaking out, though, about next week. I'm so hyped for it, because the OG I'm going to butcher his last name, Bergeron, right, is returning as a guest judge. I, unfortunately, was not watching the show in the Tom era, because I started watching during COVID in season 30. So that's beyond the time it was Tyra Banks. At that point, this is beyond his time as a host, and however, I've watched, you know, episodes from earlier seasons, I've listened to him on podcasts, and he's my birthday buddy. So I do understand and validate how much a legend he is in the Dancing with the Stars world. I also love that they decided to put a twist on the dances for the next week, which I'm still a little confused about, but they'll be bringing in former Mirrorball champs to dance with each of the remaining contestants, which I think is so fun. And they'll also, Riley and Ezra will be choreographing a tribute dance for the people on the show that have passed away, which I know is going to make me cry. Reminder, I know a lot of y'all aren't Whitney fans, but for those of you who are, she is not immune from elimination. She is simply exempt from the relay races, and automatically dances, and automatically gets the 2 bonus points that the winners of the relay dances get. And Like, this is just a reminder, because I remember last year the same thing happened. They said immunity, so everybody was like, oh, I guess I don't have to vote for Chandler. And it's like, no, you do. She could still get cut if you don't get her votes. So, like, Whitney fans, if y'all want her in here, you gotta vote, because otherwise I am a little bit worried that she might not make it through the next week when it comes to voting. But as for the show, that is all I have for you this week. Despite being a little bit sad with the elimination, I enjoyed the night overall. Upcoming, I am planning to begin, and this is for my other content, I'm planning to begin my full-time, all-time binge of LEGO Ninjago to prepare for the upcoming season, Dragons Rising Season 4. I'll do a bunch of opinion videos after I finish, and like a big whole re-ranking recap thing. I also got my copy of Nia Sue's Bottom of the Pyramid, Dance Mom's memoir. I'm very, very excited to read this, and I am considering doing a book review on my channel after I'm finished, though I'm kind of like, that's not usually content I do. It's like harder for me to do very personal content because I don't want it to get parasocial, but it is something I'm considering because I do kind of want to talk about it. And remember to check out my casual channel for dedication videos to each celeb that has been eliminated and has 5 or more dances. So Scott and Jen's video are already up, and I'm having Danielle's up as soon as possible. If you watched through the whole video, thank you so much for sticking through it. Please like and subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this content, and I will see you next week for the 20th anniversary episode. Bye!